The piercing spiritual light receded, and when Han Li opened his eyes again, he found himself on a blue stone plaza with a series of buildings of different heights not far up ahead. Han Li narrowed his eyes and discovered that these buildings were rather familiar. They were none other than the buildings depicted on the small mountain in the Jumi Paradise scroll. After surveying his surroundings, he heaved a faint sigh of relief. He was currently situated atop a small green mountain with blue skies and a few white clouds up above. As expected, he had arrived in a space that was identical to the image on the Jumi Paradise scroll. This space wasn't very large-looking, as if it was only several kilometers in size, but it was surrounded by 5 colored walls of light in all directions. The other 3 people had also arrived in this place not far away from him. Han Li and the other 2 men were looking around with curiosity in their eyes, but the shopkeeper was not in the mood for sightseeing as he hovered directly toward the cluster of buildings up ahead. Han Li's trio also rose up into the air to follow him. "Brother Yu, this Jumi space appears to be completely perfect and intact, without anything amiss. What is this flaw you were referring to?" The young man couldn't help but ask. "Haha, do you think I'll disclose that information to you? It seems to have nothing to do with our deal," the shopkeeper said in a brusque voice as he rolled his eyes. A hint of fury flashed through the young man's eyes upon hearing the shopkeeper's blunt response, but he forced a smile onto his face and said, "Heh, I was merely curious, and I bear no ill will." The shopkeeper harumphed coldly, but didn't follow up with any further insults, presumably because he still had to enlist the young man's assistance in their upcoming task. After flashing through the air several more times, he appeared before a pavilion over 1,000 feet away, before stopping in mid-air with his hands clasped behind his back. The pavilion was over 1,000 feet tall and was split into 3 levels. The building was rather antiquated, with a wide bottom that tapered to a point at the top. "The spirit beast is in this building. Come with me and I'll show you the beast first," the shopkeeper instructed as Han Li's trio gathered around him. The shopkeeper then descended first, and Han Li's trio glanced at one another before following suit. Rather than landing in front of the entrance on the first floor, the shopkeeper drifted over to a window on the second floor before stopping there. Han Li and the others found this to be rather strange, but they also headed to the same spot. After looking in through the window, they were greeted by the sight of a murky silver barrier of light. The entire second floor had been sealed by a restriction. The young man's eyes flashed, yet before he had a chance to say anything, a loud rumbling boom erupted, following which the silver light barrier tremored along with the entire pavilion. Immediately thereafter, a string of thunderclaps erupted within the light barrier in rapid succession. Thunderclaps were the only sounds that the 4 could hear, and they felt as if they were situated in a world of furious lightning, causing their consciousness to drift in an unsettling manner. Han Li was greatly startled by this development, and he immediately activated his great development technique, thereby reinstating his clarity of mind in the blink of an eye. The shopkeeper and the others were all spatial tempering cultivators, so they also quickly recovered after unleashing their respective abilities. Even so, the young man and the armor-clad man's faces had paled significantly. "This is the spirit beast you want to tame, Brother Yu?" the armor-clad man asked as he stared intently at the window. "That's right. Rest assured, fellow Taoists, the spirit beast has been sealed, and you won't be in any danger before it's released." The shopkeeper wore a calm expression, but there was excitement shimmering in his eyes. He suddenly flipped over a hand, and a scroll appeared in his grasp, following a flash of light. It was none other than that Jumi Paradise scroll. On this occasion, he didn't unfurl the scroll. Instead, he grabbed one end of the scroll while gently tapping the other end toward the light screen. A peculiar turn of events immediately unfolded. The light barrier beyond the wind suddenly shattered like glass before vanishing. The shopkeeper then flapped his wings and entered the pavilion, leaving an after-image in his wake. The armor-clad man and young man immediately followed suit without any hesitation. Han Li stroked his chin and contemplated the situation for a while before slowly drifting in through the window. The entire pavilion tremored once again amid a resounding boom. and a burst of lightning attribute spiritual pressure swept toward him like a physical wave. Han Li's expression changed slightly, and he was almost unable to repress the urge to evade. However, he remained in the same spot in mid-air and shielded himself using his divine essence-fused light in the end. Only then did he get a chance to glean his surroundings. The second floor of the pavilion was far more spacious than he'd imagined. It had an area of 2,000 to 3,000 feet, making this place appear as if it were a small plaza. At the center of the cavernous room stood 81 thick copper poles, all of which were shimmering and engraved with all types of demons and monsters. These copper pillars surrounded an area in the center that was over 300 feet wide, and arcs of black lightning were crackling between the bowls amid rumbling thunderclaps, creating a massive prison-like restriction. Within the massive cage, a ball of black mist that was around 10 feet in size was surging erratically, and resounding thunderclaps rang out incessantly from within. Bolts of silver lightning shot forth occasionally from within the black mist, but they would disappear as soon as they struck the black net of lightning, as if they'd met the bane of their existence. That's the lightning attribute spirit beast in there. The armor-clad man faltered slightly at the sight of the mundane ball of black mist within the cage. What? Are you thinking that this spirit beast isn't so remarkable after all? This lightning beast's powers are far beyond what you can imagine. The shopkeeper chuckled coldly as he glanced at the armor-clad man out of the corners of his eyes. Lightning beast, Han Li murmured to himself with furrowed brows. That's right, that's the name of this spirit beast. I won't tell you about this lightning beast's origins, but what I can tell you is that there is most definitely only one of this lightning beast in this world. The shopkeeper stared intently at the cloud of black mist within the net of black lightning as a hint of deranged insanity appeared on his face. Really, its attacks don't seem to be all that powerful. The young man's brows furrowed in skepticism. Attacks? This lightning beast isn't unleashing any attacks. The lightning you see is simply something that it was born with. Let me show you the true appearance and power of the lightning beast, the shopkeeper said with a derisive sneer on his face. He suddenly raised a hand to send forth a streak of white light from within his sleeve. The streak of light surged through the air before striking the base of the thickest copper pole before up ahead. The streak of white light was a snowy white little winged beast with spikes that were several inches long growing all over its body, making it appear as if it were a flying hedgehog. However, a restriction of some sort had clearly been cast onto it as it was unable to fly at all after landing on the copper pillar, and it merely sprawled down onto the ground, trembling uncontrollably. That's an inch-light beast. The armor-clad man and young man immediately identified this vicious beast that was vastly renowned within the flying spirit race, and they were barely able to believe their eyes. These little beasts were extremely ferocious, and they dared to engage even spatial tempering stage beings in direct battle. Even though they were pack-dwelling beasts, all of them were extremely vicious. However, the one on the copper pillar was completely timid and docile, and that came as quite a surprise to the two of them. Just as they were thinking this, a large azure hand suddenly rushed out from within the black mist, reaching toward the inch-light beast like lightning. Before the 5 fingers on the hand had even made contact with the little beast, arcs of silver lightning shot forth through the air, the little beast as completely motionless as it lay on the copper pillar. And as soon as the azure hand struck the black net of lightning, the little beast was sent flying by the force of the impact. A low roar erupted from within the mist, and it was filled with unbridled fury. All of a sudden, a burst of piercing silver light radiated from within the black mist, following which a ball of rapidly expanded within the mist with something inside it. Moments later, all of the black mist had been completely dispelled by lightning, revealing a humanoid bird-like demon within the net of lightning. The creature possessed the head of a dove and had azure skin. There was a pair of blue feathered wings on its back, and its upper body was that of a human, while its lower body was that of a bird. A hammer and an awl were present on the respective ends of its arms, and its golden eyes were shimmering with a sinister light. Despite the vast knowledge and experience possessed by Han Li's trio, they still couldn't help but draw a sharp breath upon seeing the true appearance of this lightning beast. Before they had a chance to recover from their shock, the lightning beast suddenly let loose a thunderous roar, following which white light flashed and countless fist-sized balls of white lightning erupted forth. Almost at the exact same moment, the lightning beast flapped its wings in unison, and hundreds of blue feathers shot forth at once. All of them then transformed into arcs of blue lightning that were around a foot in length each. The lightning beast then brought its hammer and awl together with a resounding boom. An extremely thick bolt of golden lightning hurtled forth from the pointy end of the awl, transforming into a golden lightning worm that swept through the air. The lightning beast had unleashed 3 different types of lightning attribute abilities in the blink of an eye, and all 3 of them appeared to be extremely powerful. Han Li's trio were all startled to see this as they reflexively retreated. It didn't seem like the thin net of black lightning would be anywhere near sufficient to keep these 3 lightning attribute attacks at bay. Only the shopkeeper remained on the spot with a confident smile on his face. As soon as the 3 different types of lightning struck the net of black lightning, the 81 copper pillars suddenly buzzed in unison, and the thin net of lightning suddenly thickened by several fold. As such, it really was able to withstand the lightning beast's powerful attack. The lightning beast let loose a thunderous roar of rage as its golden eyes stared intently at the inch-light beast, but it seemed to possess some intelligence as it unleashed no further attacks. "Don't worry. This lightning-binding light formation was something I set up after expending an immense amount of effort, and it can specifically restrict this beast's lightning attribute powers. This lightning beast may be powerful, but there's no way that it can struggle free." The shopkeeper chuckled as he suddenly swept a hand toward the inch-light beast from afar. The little beast instantly transformed into a burst of white light and was sent through the black lightning without any impediment, thus landing right before the lightning beast. As soon as the inch-light beast appeared before it, the lightning beast opened its beak without any hesitation and swallowed the little beast that was completely powerless to resist. It then let loose a low roar of satisfaction before its body instantly shrank. At the same time, a layer of black mist erupted from nearby to completely obscure it from view. Within the restriction, everything had reverted back to the exact same scene that Han Li and the others had originally witnessed. What kind of spirit beast is this lightning beast? I've read countless ancient tomes, but I've never seen any description of a beast that fits this one. The young man asked with an astonished look in his eyes. "Didn't I tell you that this beast's origins are very unique, and that it'd be best if you didn't ask about it? All you have to do is help me tame it." The shopkeeper's words seemed to carry a warning. The young man's expression changed slightly, and he raised no further questions. A hint of a peculiar light flashed through Han Li's eyes as he suddenly said, "You said that this beast is unique in the spirit realm. So can I interpret that as an admission that this beast does not hail from the spirit realm?" The shopkeeper's expression changed drastically upon hearing this, but he immediately forced a smile onto his face as he replied, "What nonsense are you spouting, Brother Han? If this beast isn't something from the spirit realm, then how could it have appeared here?" Despite the shopkeeper's denial, all 3 men could tell that he was trying to hide something, and they couldn't help but glance at one another with surprise in their eyes. If this lightning beast isn't from the spirit realm, then could it be a spirit beast that's unique to one of the lower realms? Wait, no, this beast is clearly no less powerful than a spatial tempering being, so there's no way it could exist in a lower realm. In that case, it has to be from a higher realm. It must be from the legendary true immortal realm. The young man completely disregarded the shopkeeper's warning as he mused. The armor-clad man's eyes also gradually lit up as he stared at the black mist within the restriction. However, the shopkeeper seemed to be relieved that they arrived at this conclusion, and a peculiar look appeared on his face as he said, "So you truly believe that this spirit beast is from the true immortal realm? Are we wrong? Even if it isn't from the true immortal realm, I still think you should reveal its origins to us, seeing as you want us to help you tame it, Brother Yu." Perhaps a better understanding of this beast will be helpful to us in our attempt to subdue it. If you really don't want to reveal anything, then we won't force you to. We'll just have to regard it as a spirit beast from the true immortal realm." The young man sighed. "You dare to threaten me?" The shopkeeper's expression instantly darkened. The young man took a half-step backward in retreat, but his expression remained calm as he said, "Even if the three of us were to join forces, we'd still be no match for you. So I certainly wouldn't dare to threaten you, brother you. However, don't forget that my elder brother is the youngest elder of the Tianpeng race. I'm sure you won't do something reckless that you'll regret later on." Both Han Li and the armor-clad man were both surprised to hear that the young man was the brother of a Tianpeng race elder, and both of them were forced to look at him through new eyes. A hint of wariness flashed through the shopkeeper's eyes, and after a moment of indecision, he finally said in a cold voice, "I suppose there's no harm in telling you the origins of this beast. It's not something that has to be kept strictly confidential anyway, and it would prevent you three from spinning any more ridiculous yarns. The reason why this lightning beast is unique in this world is because it was artificially created by me through gathering the power of lightning, then nurturing it using a secret technique. It is a lightning spirit, born from lightning itself, and I've spent most of my life attempting to create one with only this one resulting in success. So it's naturally unique to this world. A lightning spirit." Everyone's eyes widened upon hearing this. How is that possible? Even the legendary spirit tribe hasn't been able to nurture a living being from lightning. You may be an extremely powerful cultivator, but surely this is beyond even your capabilities, brother you," the young man said with a skeptical expression after recovering from his initial shock. Han Li and the armor-clad man's brows also furrowed tightly. Much to everyone's surprise, the shopkeeper conceded in the end and revealed, Hey, I certainly wouldn't have been able to achieve this through my own research alone. But many years ago, when I was traveling through the territories of several foreign races, I was passing through a place where a certain powerful being had fallen, and I just so happened to stumble upon a spirit beast nurturing secret technique that was passed down from the true immortal realm. This lightning beast nurturing secret technique was the only complete technique that was recorded. After a brief pause, the young man's demeanor suddenly shifted drastically as he smiled and said, "If it's a secret technique that was passed down from the true spirit realm, then this is indeed quite plausible. Apologies for my rudeness, brother you." The armor-clad man was also stroking his chin and clicking his tongue with wonder. The shopkeeper wore an expression of displeasure on his face and merely harumphed coldly in response. Meanwhile, Han Li was scrutinizing the lightning beast within the restriction with a hint of intrigue in his eyes. He didn't know whether the shopkeeper had told the truth, but this beast truly was capable of wielding astonishing lighting power, so even if it wasn't a spirit born from lightning itself, it was still a vastly powerful spirit beast. However, even if it possessed spatial tempering stage power and was capable of wielding lightning, that still definitely wasn't worth the immense investment the shopkeeper had made to tame it. After all, just the 3 items that he'd promised to Han Li's trio was definitely not inferior in value to a spatial tempering stage spirit beast. And that wasn't even taking into account all of the time and effort he'd expended to nurture this lightning beast in the first place. It appeared this beast either possessed more abilities than it had just displayed, or it served an extremely important purpose to the shopkeeper. Otherwise, there was no way that he would sacrifice so much to tame it. Not only was Han Li aware of this, the armor-clad man and the young man had also figured this out for themselves. However, all 3 of them simply wanted the treasure they were promised, and they were also fearful toward the shopkeeper's fearsome cultivation base, so they could only pretend to be oblivious. The origins of and uses for this strange spatial tempering stage spirit beast were both rather sketchy, but it wasn't worth offending the shopkeeper just to get to the bottom of things. All right, everything that needs to be said has been said. Let's get down to business. I'm going to use the restriction to temporarily immobilize the lightning beast. All you 3 have to do is enter the cage and inject your lightning powers into its body. Remember to keep going until I tell you to stop. Otherwise, all of your prior efforts could go to waste, the shopkeeper announced in an implacable tone. Han Li's trio expressed no further objections on this occasion. The shopkeeper nodded before rustling his sleeve, upon which the Jumi Paradise scroll appeared in his hand once again. This time he tossed the scroll forward, and it immediately unfurled before him. 5-colored spiritual light flashed as the artwork of the Jumi Paradise was revealed to everyone again. The shopkeeper began to chant something before pointing a finger quickly toward a certain spot on the piece of artwork. Blue light flashed deep within Han Li's eyes, and he was instantly able to glean what the shopkeeper was doing. The spot that he had pointed to was none other than the tall pavilion that they were currently situated in. In the next instant, brilliant white light erupted from the artwork, and a burst of white mist suddenly appeared. Within the mist, the walls on the first and second floors of the pavilion slowly backed away before vanishing. Han Li's expression changed slightly, yet before he could figure out what those changes entailed, tremors suddenly ran through the ground beneath his feet. The actual pavilion that they were situated in tremored violently as white light radiated from the walls around them. They then backed away before disappearing into nothingness. In the blink of an eye, everyone was situated under the blue sky, along with the lightning beast. The ground of the pavilion underfoot had also been transformed into a bare plaza. The black mist within the restriction surged erratically, clearly indicating that the lightning beast had also been alerted by these changes. Han Li stroked his chin, while the young man and the armor-clad man glanced at each with surprise in their eyes. Right at this moment, the shopkeeper let loose a low cry, and a crimson arrow shot forth from within his mouth. The arrow disappeared in a flash into the scroll he was holding, and a loud thunderclap suddenly erupted high up in the sky, following which howling winds were swept up around them. Arcs of silver lightning peeked through the dark clouds amid an incessant burst of rumbling, and it appeared as if a powerful devil were about to descend upon this world. Before Han Li's trio had a chance to ask, the shopkeeper took the initiative and provided an explanation for a change. In the past failed experiences, the power of lightning that the three of you possess is most likely insufficient for the task. As such, I've activated all of the world's origin key within this Jumi Paradise scroll to manifest the power of heavenly lightning in order to assist you three. After this, the scroll will most likely be ruined, so this is my final roll of the dice. I hope the three of you can help me to the best of your abilities, and if you can help me successfully tame this beast, not only will I give you your promised rewards, I'll also throw in a large sum of spirit stones for each of you. The shopkeeper spoke in a very solemn and serious voice. Han Li's trio was elated to hear this, and all of them expressed their willingness to do everything in their power. The shopkeeper nodded in response before abruptly flapping his wings toward the scroll before him. A swath of white light immediately surged forth, sweeping up the Jumi Paradise scroll within it. The scroll rotated within the white light before countless runes of different colors suddenly appeared on its surface. In the end, following a rumbling boom, it transformed into a 5-colored pillar of light that disappeared into the dark clouds up above. An incredible scene then ensued. After a bout of tumbling and surging, an earth-shattering thunderclap suddenly erupted within the dark clouds. Immediately thereafter, an extremely vibrant bolt of 5-colored lightning that was as thick as a large bowl shot appeared before flashing through the clouds like a massive 5-colored python. 5-colored heavenly tribulation, the armor-clad man exclaimed in alarm as the sight of this 5-colored lightning. There's no need for panic. This isn't the true 5-colored heavenly lightning that appears during a tribulation transcendence for flying spirit. True monarchs. It's merely something I've simulated using a wisp of the world's origin chi, and it possesses less than 1,000th of the power of true 5-colored heavenly lightning, the shopkeeper consoled in a calm voice. Han Li and the young man also wore horrified looks on their faces, but their expressions eased after hearing this. However, there was still a hint of shock in Han Li's eyes as he looked up at the 5-colored lightning in the sky. This 5-colored heavenly lightning was rumored to be tribulation lightning for cultivators of the Grand Ascension stage. and even purple golden tribulation lightning for body integration cultivators couldn't even hold a candle to its extraordinary power, even if it possessed only thousandths of the power of actual five-colored heavenly lightning. It could still quite possibly be capable of killing any one of Han Li's trio. At this moment, the shopkeeper could no longer pay any heed to Han Li and the others. He was busy casting incantation seals toward the 81 copper pillars up ahead. All of the pillars emitted a burst of ringing before balls of white light surfaced above them, manifesting a series of sinister dragon heads. All of these dragon heads then opened their mouths to blast forth arcs of black lightning. A low roar suddenly erupted within the mist as a ball of silver light hurtled forth. Following a flash of light, the lightning beast had appeared in a corner of the net of lightning. However, those black arcs of lightning seemed to have locked onto the lightning beast as they all changed directions to compensate for its movement. The lightning beast let loose a roar of fury, but it was clearly extremely fearful of these arcs of black lightning, as evidenced by the fact that it was desperately attempting to evade them. Thus, a ball of silver light began to spring from one spot in the restriction to another in a wraith-like manner, but the tens of arcs of black lightning followed it relentlessly in hot pursuit. All of a sudden, loud thunderclaps rang out within the restriction, and the shopkeeper also began to chant something again. The black arcs of lightning accelerated even further, leaving trails of after-images in their wake and enshrouding the entire space within the restriction in black lightning. Han Li looked on with a slightly awestruck expression. He didn't know what kind of lightning ability these black arcs of lightning were, but they were astonishingly fast. If he were trapped within that restriction, he wouldn't be able to evade for long, even with his thunderstorm wings. This lightning beast was quite proficient in lightning movement techniques, but it most likely wouldn't be able to last much longer either. Just as he'd expected, only a short while had passed by before the ball of silver light was struck by several arcs of black lightning at once. The lightning beast's body was forcibly revealed in mid-air amid a howl of anguish, and it was convulsing spasmodically. As such, all of the other arcs of black lightning also converged and struck it as well. A thunderous roar of rage erupted from the lightning beast's beak as crimson, white, blue, and golden lightning erupted from its body at once in a desperate attempt to keep the black lightning at bay. The shopkeeper's eyes lit up upon seeing this, and he took a deep breath before striding forward, then slamming his palm into a copper pillar in front of him. All of a sudden, bursts of white spiritual power flower from his palm into the copper pillar in a frenzy. The thin arcs of lightning being blasted from the dragon heads up above immediately thickened by around twofold amid a rumbling boom. On the other end, the lightning beast was finally unable to resist any longer in the face of the fearsome black lightning, and it plummeted toward the ground as the four different types of lightning around its body became extremely dull and lusterless. Meanwhile, the black arcs of lightning in the sky formed a series of black chains that bound the lightning beast tightly, thereby completely immobilizing it. "All right, you can all go in now, fellow Taoists," the shopkeeper announced. He then immediately withdrew his palm from the copper pillar before casting an incantation seal onto it. The copper pillar tremored before the massive net of lightning crumbled and vanished. Han Li's trio glanced at one another before flying into the cage as streaks of spiritual light without any hesitation. The three of them situated themselves around 10 feet away from the bound lightning beast, not daring to get too close to it. Meanwhile, the shopkeeper himself also appeared beside Han Li and the others in a flash. "I'm going to use a secret technique to lock away the source of lightning within this beast's body. The three of you listen for my signal, then inject your powers of lightning into the beast's body," the shopkeeper quickly instructed. He then flipped his hand over to produce 5 pitch-black daggers. The daggers were very light, as if they had been made from wood. However, both the armor-clad man and the young man's expressions changed drastically upon seeing this. Black Star daggers. Despite their obvious astonishment, neither of them asked any questions this time, and the shopkeeper didn't provide any explanation either, so Han Li was left wondering what these daggers could be. Several streaks of black light flashed through the air, and the 5 daggers embedded themselves into the lightning beast's limbs and heart. The lightning beast let loose an earth-shattering roar as it thrashed violently within the black chains. Not a single drop of blood seeped out of its stab wounds. Spiritual light swirled around the 5 daggers, following which the lightning beast's eyes glazed over, and the 4 types of lightning around its body finally disappeared. The shopkeeper blasted forth another ball of white light from his mouth upon seeing this. This was only a fist-sized rhomboid white crystal, but it was imbued with astonishing spiritual pressure, and Han Li's eyes narrowed as he looked on from the side. In contrast with high-grade cultivators of the human race, high-grade beings of the flying spirit race didn't have nascent souls. Instead, they had crystal cores, and those cores were just as important to them as nascent souls were to human cultivators. The shopkeeper threw up a large mouthful of blood essence onto the crystal core before pointing a finger at it in a solemn manner. The core immediately began to descend and disappeared into the lightning beast's head in a flash. Almost at the exact same moment, the shopkeeper yelled, "Go!" Han Li and the others immediately sprung into action. Han Li rubbed his hands together and arcs of golden lightning surfaced between his palms. The armor-clad man opened his mouth, and white lightning could be seen shimmering within. As for the young man, he flapped his wings, and arcs of silver lightning appeared over those wings. A resounding boom erupted as all 3 types of lightning struck the lightning beast's body in unison. A peculiar scene unfolded. Han Li's divine devil-bane lightning and the lightning unleashed by the other 2 cultivators were all drawn into the 5 black daggers upon coming into contact with the lightning beast's body. Layers of black light then appeared over the 5 daggers before transforming into arcs of black lightning that disappeared soundlessly into the lightning beast's body. The young man and the armor-clad man both faltered upon seeing this, but their lightning output did not cease. Thus, the black light shimmering from the 5 daggers became more and more piercing, and the daggers themselves began to tremor slightly. Han Li cast his glance toward the shopkeeper to find that he was seated off to the side with his legs crossed and his eyes closed while making a strange hand seal, seemingly unleashing some kind of secret technique. Bright white light was radiating around his body, clearly an indication that he was unleashing all of his spiritual power to its maximal extent. Han Li couldn't ascertain what he was doing, so he withdrew his gaze and focused on maintaining his divine devil-bane lightning output. After a while, the daggers had absorbed a vast amount of lightning, but they did nothing other than continue to tremor. However, the shopkeeper's face had become extremely pale, and sweat had begun to bead on his forehead. Furthermore, veins were bulging on his forehead as well as on his neck, making it appear as if he were going through intense exertion. Even the spiritual light around his body had dimmed slightly. Meanwhile, the projection of a fist-sized white crystal had appeared on his glabella. The projection was flashing erratically, and it was none other than his crystal core. After some more time had passed, all of the color had drained from the shopkeeper's face, and he suddenly rasped, "Increase your lightning output." Han Li's trio were all rather disgruntled by this instruction. This prolonged period of lightning output had exhausted close to half of their lightning power. If they were to increase their output, they wouldn't be able to last very long. However, they could all hear the resolute and implacable tone in the shopkeeper's voice, so all of them did as they were instructed after only a brief hesitation. Thus, loud thunderclaps erupted as the 3 different types of lightning virtually inundated the lightning beast's entire body. Through their increased lightning output, the 5 daggers embedded within the lightning beast's body finally began to display some changes. The daggers gradually turned a shade of vibrant red, as if they were sucking blood. At this moment, the projection of the crystal core on the shopkeeper's glabella also took on a crimson hue, and it also began to expand and shrink in an erratic manner. After letting loose a low cry, the shopkeeper abruptly opened his eyes to blast forth another item from his mouth. It was a green wooden badge with layers of complex patterns all over its surface, giving it a rather mysterious appearance. As soon as the wooden badge appeared, it flashed over to the lightning beast's head. A plume of thin green threads shot forth from within the badge before disappearing into the lightning beast's head in a flash. The unconscious lightning beast shuddered, and as the wooden badge buzzed gently, a portion of a miniature green lightning beast projection was drawn out of the lightning beast's body by the countless green threads. An elated look appeared on the shopkeeper's face, and he began to make hand seals while chanting something in a soundless manner at the same time. The buzzing from the wooden badge intensified as the lightning beast projection continued to be forcibly dragged out of its body little by little. All of a sudden, golden light flashed within the lightning beast's lusterless eyes. An explosive thunderclap erupted from its body, and the 5 black daggers were almost completely extricated amid a loud boom. The 4 different types of lightning surfaced over the lightning beast's body again. The shopkeeper's heart jolted with shock, yet before he had a chance to do anything else, piercing green light erupted from the projection of the lightning beast as it disappeared into its body again. At the same time, the lightning beast let loose another thunderous roar, and the arcs of lighting all over its body intensified in power as it struggled and thrashed with all its might. An expression of shock and fury appeared on the shopkeeper's face as he hurriedly turned to Han Li's trio and asked, "Can you increase your lightning output any further?" "No, I'm already at my limit." The young man's face was also rather pale. "I won't be able to either." The armor-clad man appeared to be in slightly better condition, but he also expressed an inability to offer any further output. As for Han Li, he merely shook his head in response. The shopkeeper was slightly disappointed to hear this, but he then immediately gritted his teeth as he said, "All right, looks like we'll have to take the risk then. Maintain your current lightning output, and I'll bring the 5-colored lightning down on this beast. With its power, we have a very good chance at success." Han Li and the others' expressions changed slightly upon hearing this, but none of them objected to this course of action in the end. Thus, the shopkeeper paid no further heed to the struggling lightning beast as he flapped his wings and slowly rose up into the air,